What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sports Motivation Podcast. It is your host, Nee Shobo. I'm excited to break down today's topic, and I'm going to make it easy for those of you who do not watch football or understand football. It's not important that you do, because I'm going to give you the proper context to understand. But I love football, so you guys know I played football, and the fall is one of my favorite times of the year. I love when the football season starts, and I just enjoy everything about it. So I've been watching the games, and I like to watch the football commentary as well. And I saw something the other day, an interview from Tua Tagovailoa, who's a quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. And I see this often, and I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to be breaking down interviews from athletes because it's becoming easier and easier to see the athletes who not only are not getting proper media training, because that's not what this is about, but who don't know how to manage their emotions, who don't know how to manage their ego. And the ego is a tricky thing, and it can get in the way of your growth and your improvement. And and there's no better example than what you're going to see, what I'm going to show you from this interview from Tua Tagovailoa. All right. So I'm going to be breaking that down, and for the sake of you learning from it. Again, this is not sports, talk reaction or anything like that. This is a learning opportunity for you so that you can learn to calm your ego so that you can grow. All right. And now I'm not one that's going to tell you that the ego is your enemy. But the ego definitely can get in the way of your growth and does get in the way of your growth. All right. So before we hop into it, let me first start by explaining to you just very simply what the ego is. All right. I know there's people use the word ego for all sorts of things, but the ego is nothing more than a layer of your psyche, if you will. And think of it as armor that you have. All right. So its job is to protect you. And it's not to protect you necessarily physically, but it's to protect you from social threats. All right. So it holds your identity. So think right now, what are some qualities and traits that you identify with? You say, I'm a nice person, let's say. That's a part of your ego. Now, that's not to say you're not nice. All right. But you developed an idea of yourself that said, I'm a nice person, or I'm a confident person, or I'm a strong person, or I'm an independent person. All right. So the ego's job is to protect you from social threats, and it holds your identity. All right. Not your real identity per se. And I'm not going to go too deep into that, but just the one that you created since you were young to keep you safe. All right. To keep you socially accepted. All right. Now, the problem becomes as we grow and we're no longer unsafe and we no longer need to try to fit in like we did when we were younger and be accepted. Right. The ego becomes rigid, it becomes outdated. And the thing that I want you to understand about the ego is you can never get rid of it. All right. It's part of our gift and curse as humans. All right. You can never get rid of your ego, but you can. Shout out to Justin. My mentor likes to say you can thin it out. So if you think about ego being like your armor, instead of walking around with full on, armor from the, medieval times, you can thin out your ego and become more, let's say, like a bulletproof vest. Or if you watch the movie John Wick, right? He would have these customized suits that would be bulletproof all throughout. But it's a suit. He can still move. All right. So you can thin your ego out in that way. So the ego, when it's activated, it's armor. It's trying to keep you safe. It's not looking to grow. It's not looking to expand. It's not looking to evolve. So the ego, when activated, will not let you grow. Its only job is survival, or so it thinks. All right. And there's a great book called No More Mr. Nice Guy by, can't remember the author. No More Mr. Nice Guy. I'll figure out the author and let you know. But he talks about when the ego is activated. Here's a real simple way you can understand that it's activated, and it's DEER. All right. when you're defending yourself, when you're excusing yourself or making excuses, when you're explaining or rationalizing. All right. So that's how you can know the ego is activated. So now I'm going to explain a little bit about Tua because I want to show this video real quick of him doing this. But I want to explain. So Tua Tagovailoa, he was a very talented quarterback coming out of college. All right. He was taken 5th overall. Some even thought that he was going to go number 1, but he's 5th overall. So high draft pick. He played well in the beginning couple seasons, but he struggled with injury. He got a lot of concussions and things like that. Then he was awarded like a record-setting contract. So he got a big contract from the Miami Dolphins. All right, plays for the Miami Dolphins in the NFL. But more injuries, and now he's struggling. All right, the team is now 0-3. And people are calling for him to be traded, for the coach to be fired. It's a bad situation in Miami. All right. So here he is in this tough situation. So imagine you as an athlete, you're getting all this scrutiny. We live in 2025. So everybody's online talking about you. There's podcasts talking about you. There's people on Twitter talking about you. There's people on ESPN TV talking about you, critiquing you. Now there's former athletes who are talking about you, critiquing you, criticizing you. All right. So, and one of those quarterbacks or former quarterbacks who's now an analyst is Cam Newton. All right. Cam Newton was a great quarterback, played like 11 years in the league. All right. Now he's been very critical of Tua recently, his play. Not critical of Tua, but critical of his play. All right. So Tua is asked about a question or about the critique of Cam Newton. He's asked about it in this interview. All right. And this is Tua's response. So I'm going to show you what his response is, and then we're going to break it down because it's very important to understand so that you guys can learn from this situation. All right, good. All right, let me know if in the chat if you guys can see the screen. All right, so let's take a listen. All right, so he's asked the question, and this is what his response is.
Anybody can play quarterback in this league. Then I mean, I want to see anybody on the streets come and play quarterback. I mean, Cam's doing his thing for sure, but I think it's easier to be able to hold a clicker and talk about it that way, or talk about what someone else is doing wrong when you're not going out and having to do the same as them, right? So I think it's easy to do that. I think anybody can do that. I don't think anybody can play quarterback.
All right, good. So interesting. All right. So what is he essentially doing in this clip is he's trying to get you or us watching, as well as the media people in front of him. He's trying to get them to understand how hard it is to play quarterback. That was the essence of that. He didn't address what Cam Newton actually said. He didn't address how he's playing. He is trying to get you to understand, man, it's hard to play quarterback. And it's easy to just sit there with a clicker or sit there and ask questions and critique. All right. And he's also trying to act as though he's being unfairly attacked. All right. Now, I'm going to address this to Tua. Okay. And this is what Tua first needs to understand. So I'm going to go through these. And again, I want you to apply this to yourself as an athlete, because whether you are in the position of a Tua who's getting critiqued in this way, or you're at a lower stage, it doesn't matter. You're going to have situations similar to Tua where your ego is activated and it chooses to try to protect you. because you don't know how to soothe yourself and calm yourself down so that you can, number one, do the right thing in the given moment, as well as learn and grow and get better. Your ego is not concerned with growing and getting better. It's only concerned with survival. All right. So here's what Tua and you need to understand. All right. The first thing is this. Like I said, it's 2025, and this has been true with professional sports since the beginning of time, but even more so now. Professional sports is entertainment. All right. Now, as football players, as whatever sports you play, you're a competitor, right? But you have to understand that it's entertainment. The entertainment is also not just what happens between whatever team you're playing against on Sundays. It's reporters, it's pundits, it's talk show hosts, it's podcast hosts. So you need to understand and accept this, that it's entertainment. All right. So no, that if you accept this, that you understand it and you do not complain about being talked about. You just accept it. You can tell with Tua's response, there's a part of him that doesn't like the fact that he's being talked about. But you have to understand this is part of the game. When you think about as a professional athlete, and let's say the fans are booing, and Kobe Bryant understood this, he would not take this personal. He understands that the fans come there, they pay their hard-earned money to see a game, and if they don't see what they like, they're going to boo. That's part of the game. That's a part of this whole ecosystem that is sports. We can't be so myopic or short-sighted that we can't understand the larger game that's being played. Tua has to understand this, and he needs to accept it. All right. The other thing that Tua needs to understand is that your job, Tua, as a leader, is not to bring more attention onto yourself and play into this aspect of entertainment. Now, even though I said it's entertainment, right? That doesn't mean you have to play into that. Your job is to focus on winning the game and leading your team to victory. That's the role that you play in this game. So that means you don't discuss your feelings and your feelings with the media. Why? Because then they use it as entertainment. And then guess what that does? That brings unwanted attention to you and your team and brings more distractions. Distractions are bad, right? Because now time and energy is being taken away from your team focusing on the game plan and how to win the game. That's all you should be focused about, because that's what your role is. Your role is not to debate with the debaters. That's not your job. So you don't need to do that. If Tua understood this, he wouldn't even give the time of day to that reporter. Why is it that we see some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time? When's the last time you ever heard Patrick Mahomes say something or Lamar Jackson say something that has them being critiqued in this way? They don't. Number one, most importantly, because they don't think like this. But even when they're weak or their ego gets activated, they have a good game plan and a good enough control of their ego to where they're not going to express themselves in that way, in a vulnerable way to a reporter, where now more negative attention is being brought onto Tua and his teammates, his organization. It's not good. All right. So you have to understand that. That's not your job. The other thing is people, the media, they do not care about how hard things are for you. In sports and in many areas of life, I would suggest all areas of life. I was going to say maybe with the exception of your loved ones, but even with your loved ones, it could be this way. People don't care how hard things are for you. So you spending time, describing how hard it is for you, almost trying to elicit sympathy from those people that you're dealing with, or understanding from them, is time wasted. Leave that to yourself. Talk to your therapist about it. Talk to your mother about it. Your job is to win and to play well enough to help your team win. That's what your job is. That's it. Nobody cares how hard it is for you to play quarterback. We know it's hard. That's why you get paid a lot of money. And this is the other thing. When people talk about how much money these guys get paid, and I'm not one to talk in that way, but you have to understand, they're not saying it because you just made a lot of money. They're saying it because there's high expectations for you. You have to accept that burden. That's part of the game. That's part of again, the whole ecosystem that is sports. You took on that responsibility. All right. So what Tua's next step needs to be, what Tua can learn from this is number one, he's got to uncover. Now, this is hard. This is difficult stuff, right? He's got to uncover through a healthy and deep dialogue with himself. Why do you feel the need to defend yourself? What part of your identity are you defending right now? Tua was a very good quarterback in college. I'm sure very good before then. Much of his identity is tied up in football and being a great quarterback and being a winning quarterback. Now that he's losing, that can be tough, right? Because there's a part of his identity that says, I'm a winner. And now he's losing. So he has to uncover this. And that's for Tua to do. All right. That's not for us to do for Tua. We can't do that for him. He needs to initiate that on his own. He needs to uncover this through deep introspection, because by observing it and uncovering it, that's how he can start to take control of it. Without understanding it and without observing it, it's just going to keep acting up. And guess what? The more he loses, the more triggered he gets. Then we're going to see crash outs. We've seen this. We've seen this happen countless times with athletes. All the time we see it. The next thing Tua needs to do is he needs to reestablish his self-worth outside of football. He needs to re-clarify what his worth is outside of being a football player, because it's clear to see, right? And we can all relate. It's clear to see that his identity as a football player is threatened right now. That's why he's acting in this way. That's why he's defending, explaining, excusing, rationalizing. So he needs to re-clarify what makes him worthy and lovable as a human being. Is it how good of a football player he is? What is it? And you have to create a new definition for that. And that's, again, for you to create. It's not for me to create for you. Once you define this, this helps the ego to begin to lower its defenses. Because now it doesn't need to be as triggered. You have to be able to calm your ego down. You have to think of your ego like a big ass dog, like a Rottweiler or something, or a pit bull. And you've got to train it from being reckless, crazy, drooling, biting, barking everybody. You have to train it to be calm, to be poised, to only move when you tell it to move. That's your job. Now, with your ego now calm, Tua, what you can do is now listen to the criticism. I'm not saying go on YouTube and listen to all the interviews, people talking shit about you. I'm not saying to go on Twitter. Listen to the criticism from those you trust. All right, whether it be your coaches, teammates, maybe some former NFL, maybe there's some guys that you can reach out to, some former quarterbacks who you can reach out to and get some feedback and listen so that you can improve. Don't listen so you can then rationalize some more. Listen so you can improve. All right. Accept your mistakes. Accept that you are failing right now. Not that you're a failure. Accept that you're 0-3. Accept that you have made some mistakes and that there's parts of your game that need to be improved. Accept that maybe you're not the same player since you've gotten those concussions. That's not to say you can't play anymore. There's going to be some ways you need to evolve, but you've got to accept. Listen to that with your ego now calm. The next thing that Tua needs to do is he needs to invest either in a therapist, a coach, a friend, someone who he can process with instead of going to the media, and not someone who's going to listen to him and agree with everything that he says. Someone who can listen to him so that he can process it and calm his ego down so he can make good decisions about what to do. Also, this person should be willing and able to tell him the truth. This is important. I imagine that Tua most likely doesn't have that. Otherwise, he wouldn't be repeatedly showing up on these interviews, because this is not the only interview clip. He's been talking a lot, saying a lot of things that really reveal a lot of his weaknesses right now. And I'm not knocking Tua for having weaknesses. You have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. But what you want to do is not create an environment where it makes it harder for you to address those weaknesses so you can improve. And now Tua is just making it harder for himself. All right. The other thing that Tua needs to do is practice mindfulness and self-soothing. He also needs to create new rules for how he deals with the media. He has to have a better game plan. I don't know who's coaching him up. I don't know if he's getting corrected. But before he takes the stage, he needs to know how to calm himself down. He needs to know how to align his mind, body, and spirit. He needs to then review what his rules are for how he talks to the media, what he says. He needs to be prepared for all of the different questions that he knows the media are going to get. They're not like they're throwing curveballs. All of these teams have PR people and people who can assist him with this. He needs to utilize that and stop saying things that do not help you and your team. Stop saying things that give people ammo for content. Now, lucky for you guys, I'm breaking this down so that you can benefit from it. I'm not talking about these things for the sake of, gossiping about Tua. All right. Most of you don't even play football. It's not about what sport. This is not about being fans of the Dolphins or the NFL or nothing like that. This is about you understanding how your ego gets in the way of your growth and development. All right. So you need to learn from Tua. You need to watch your ego when it's triggered. You need to learn how to communicate with your ego to calm it down. You need to understand your ego. You need to understand the identity that you've constructed for yourself and where you learn to create that. And you need to start peeling away some of those layers that no longer suit you anymore so that you can evolve, so that you can perform better, so that you can rise above all of the noise, all of the gossip, all of the nonsense that you as athletes deal with. That's what you need to do. All right. So if you're an athlete, right, at this stage of your career, and you're ready to take it to the next level and you need that coaching, maybe you find your ego being attacked or feeling attacked and you're needed to defend yourself a lot. All right. Book a consultation with me. Go to imnotyou.com/consultation and we'll have a talk. We'll learn more about where you're at and create a good game plan to help you improve and to dominate in the way that you know that you want to. All right. If you got any questions, go ahead and post them in the chat. I'll address them here. And if not, I will look forward to seeing you guys soon. Peace.